Today, I'd like to share with you 6 slightly controversial interviewing techniques, and with the goal to help you to decide whether if it's something that could bring value to your own interviewing skills. The first one I'd like to share with you here is that you could share your story bank with your interviewers prior to your interview. Okay, so the reasoning behind this is that 95% of people fail to reach a story bank that's qualitative enough by their own standards, right? So if you're proud of your story bank, you could share it with the interviewing panel before your interview starts, right? I made another video about this with the pros and cons, but there aren't many cons to this approach so long you have that story bank, right? The second tip I'd like to share with you here would be to answer questions using failure stories. And the idea behind this is that if you want to sell yourself on your learnings during a job interview, then the best learnings usually happen from failures, right? So for example, if you're getting asked something online, so tell me about a challenging initiative, you could talk about a failed initiative because of its learnings, right? So if the learnings would be something super interesting, then you could sell yourself with a failure story, which is rather counterintuitive in job interviews, and interviewers will not have heard this approach many times before, right? The third tip I'd like to share with you refers again to behavior questions, and the standard advice, well-known advice, is to answer them in the STAR format, right? So nothing wrong with that, but what if you do things a bit differently, and instead of answering the STAR format, you answer it in reverse, starting with the result, then the action, then situation and task. The idea being here, your answer will still fit with all the requirements, with all the details, with all the metrics, with all the sections required to communicate the idea you want to transmit, but maybe your idea will be communicated even better this way. And I would like to invite you here to A/B test some of your STAR answers in reverse STAR to see if you can bring added value to this approach. Okay. Next tip refers still to the STAR answers and to the behavioral questions, and refers especially when you're getting asked an open-ended question. How do you manage, or how do you prioritize? So the idea here would be, instead of providing one STAR answer, to provide 3 quick STAR answers. All right, and let them pick, hey, which one would you like? They would like you to discuss more and eventually perform a deep dive of anything like that. But the idea here, by providing them with options, again in the STAR format, so you have to be really good at answering in the STAR format pretty quickly, then the idea would be it would maybe start the conversation, and usually how these conversations would evolve would be more interesting. You could come across as a more qualified candidate, again, if you choose this way, right? Number 5 here, your elevator pitch. So what happens here is the elevator pitch is something that many candidates prefer to overspend time on preparing for this question, and this is almost always on the reasoning that, hey, the first impression is last impression. I don't believe that's highly accurate in today's interviews, but the point is that instead of over-investing your time in your elevator pitch and trying to make an amazing impression on a question that you're not going to surely going to get asked, to prepare something straightforward for your elevator pitch, to really prepare a 20-second answer with some of the key highlights, and then invite for a conversation. Similarly, with the 3 STAR examples, you give them 3 options, and then eventually you start a conversation, right? This would be the same idea with your elevator pitch, and I even encourage you not to make it too emotional or too fancy, simply because everyone does it these days. So if you want to differentiate yourself from others, you can give an outright boring, tell me about yourself, and still benefit, still differentiate yourself and eventually come across as a more qualified candidate without a super strong first impression. And last but not least, the 6th extreme interviewing tip, if you want, on the question of why do you want to work for this company. So what the overwhelming majority of people do here is to praise the company. You're an exceptional company with exceptional people, with exceptional growth trajectory, and so on, right? So what you could do here to differentiate yourself, and of course, to the extent your CV allows, would to say something on the lines, hey, but you know what, I'm not really sure I want to join your company just yet. I'm here to learn more about the opportunity and to see whether this opportunity is right for both me and you, right? As a for me as a candidate, what's in for me, and for you as a candidate, for a company, hey, if my skills and aptitudes could bring value to what you do, right? So these were my 6 rather controversial and more extreme interviewing tips. Most of these have been tested before, by the way. I would very much encourage you to see what works in your case. And again, the goal here would be to differentiate yourself and to pass interviews. Hopefully you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.